Life is such a fickle thing, huh? No, I'm not crying. Shut up. Get out of my room, Mom. I'm playing Persona 3 Reload. This video was made with the support of my patrons and subscribers. Consider giving this video a like and subscribe to my channel. More info in the description and comments below. No other game can give you that instant introspection and the feeling of emptiness and longing for fictional people in a fictional high school no less when you finish a Persona game. And while Persona 4 is the upbeat blonde middle child and Persona 5 is the rebellious likes the color red too much youngest sibling, Persona 3 is the I love Linkin Park type of eldest sibling. All this to say that Persona 3 is the much more serious of the bunch, tackling the themes of life, death, what it means to live, the acceptance of death, and subsequently, the grief that surrounds it, and a whole lot more. And you may not know this, but this game has had a long life before getting here. Persona 3 started out as a PS2 game back in 2006, and if you think about it, Persona 3 is now old enough to freaking vote. Let that sink in for a while. Following this release was Persona 3 Fez, short for Festival, which added extras and enhanced the game, featuring an epilogue and a whole slew of other changes. The game was released to worldwide audiences in 2008. A cut-down version called Persona 3 Portable for the PSP was released as well back in 2010 for North American audiences, which featured a new playable protagonist. And if all of this is starting to sound confusing that it feels like you need to contact the CIA to give you deep intel on which Persona 3 game you should start with, don't worry because your boy 13 is here to answer that very question. Seriously, just play Persona 3 Reload. Persona 3 Reload contains everything that Persona 3 Fez had except for episode Aegis, also known as The Answer, which acts as the epilogue to the overarching story. You can get this though as a DLC to the base game, which people are upset over, understandably so since all of the other remastered games have their own extensions to the base game tacked onto it at full price. And another casualty to this remaster is the missing female main character that was featured in Persona 3 Portable. And I haven't even touched on the spin-off games yet. Jesus Christ, Atlas, learn to let your games go. Because there's a crap ton of spin-off games based off of Persona 3 that no one asked for, but everyone secretly enjoys, including myself. Keep that one in the hush-hush. But in 2023, the fans of Persona Jesus over here, including myself, can finally rejoice with the announcement of Persona 3 Reload. And in February 1, 2024, those who haven't been able to experience Persona 3 were finally able to do so, reaching overwhelmingly positive on Steam amongst other reviews. But to those who have already played the game years ago, this was their chance to once again relive the grief, the joy, the friendship, the sorrow, and the long and satisfying journey of its story. And I know some of you have been waiting for this, so what the hell is Persona 3 Reload? Starting off with the protagonist Makoto Yuki, which is you by the way, for whatever reason transfers to Gekkoukan High in Tatsumi Port Island. But before the protagonist can even unpack his stuff and reach the dorm, you're already met by a seemingly strange and unnatural environment, which you would come to know as the Dark Hour. Not too long after this small introduction, a shadow pretty much just barges into the dorm you're living in, but don't worry, because this is the cue for you to wake your dormant power within you called Persona, by nonchalantly shooting yourself in the head. I'm not joking, you kinda do shoot yourself in the head, but not really. It's metaphorical or something, I don't fucking know. But don't worry too much about your brain matter all over the floor and what personas are for the time being. Just think of them as your Pokemons that you call out to fight for you. Because what are you gonna do? Whack that thing with a stick? After your persona literally went nuts and machetes a shadow in half, the guys inside your dorm essentially say you're hired, and for some reason, you are now the leader of the said group. Which is hilarious because some of these people have been killing shadows for far longer than the protagonist has, but I digress. Mitsuru, seeing that there are now enough people with personas, decides that now is the time to explore Tartarus, a tower of absurd proportions with more than 200 floors. Yes, you heard me right, there's more than 200 floors to this tower, and I have no idea how I went about finishing all the floors in the span of less than an in-game year without going absolutely nuts myself. And with that, the specialized extracurricular execution squad is reborn. You'll be discovering what the Tartarus is, the Dark Hour, and what other secrets lie beyond the people you know and Tatsumi Port Island itself, all while being a good boy, balancing your education and social life. You know, because when there are supernatural beings that are actively trying to kill you, scoring high on tests and making friends is still on top of the priority list apparently. But on the long way towards the end, and trust me, this game game is incredibly long, you may want to take a seat there, boyo. Get comfy, because you'll encounter a lot of things such as Junpei getting burned 24/7. It's not a phase, mom. Potential girlfriends, teenage drama, self-esteem issues, the definition of creepy, repeating battle themes, the color blue, fancy menu screens, shirtless Jesus, emo Jesus, really long lectures, forming unbreakable bonds, obligatory beach episode, obligatory hot spring episode, persona, socialing, planting plants, an emotional terminator, online dating, an ungodly amount of eating scenes, manual labor, the literal spawn of Satan, looking for weaknesses by casting skills randomly, combining your Pokemons, sitting in the velvet room for far too long, studying, walking the doggy, TV with the bros, cooking with the bros, going out with the bros, Elizabeth being weird, regular examinations, hitting on your teacher, hitting on your batchmates, hitting on your seniors, the feeling of despair, the slow realization that time waits for no one and that death awaits us all. And lastly, is that a Neon Genesis Evangelion reference? Persona 3 Reload plays exactly like Persona 4 and 5, wherein it's equal parts life simulator, dungeon crawler, turn-based RPG, and visual novel. Your everyday experience in the game can easily be divided into two. During the day, you'll be a regular teenager going to school, studying, making friends, hanging out with friends. God damn it, guys, how'd that get into the script? But at night, you'll be on the prowl exploring Tartarus and killing more and more shadows, slowly turning you into the thing shadows fear the most. Die, you piece of Exploring Tartarus isn't the only thing happening at night. Every set amount of days under the full moon, the plot essentially moves forward. Shit goes down, and you're more or less going to be squaring up with the boss, and you better hope you grinded enough levels out of Tartarus there, sonny, because you'll be beaten to a bloody fucking stomp by some of the bosses if you're underleveled or don't have the right personas for the job. But if you don't feel like going to Tartarus or your party is unable to do so due to the plot, you're free to do other things such as hanging out with some of your friends at night, take a shift as a part-timer, karaoke, eat at a fast food joint, etc. And on the topic of gameplay, turn-based combat is a common sight in JRPGs, and Persona is not a stranger to this. Fights in this game are essentially guys taking turns beating each other up, but to add to this, your enemies have elemental weaknesses that you can exploit, giving you another turn when doing so, which gives you the option to choose one of your teammates to attack, but you could also guard. Use your persona, swap personas, scan, or use items. When done correctly, you can even end a fight without letting your enemies move. Additionally, you can cast buffs or debuffs and other utility skills, giving the combat some form of needed complexity. And while all of this is happening, the persona you use is also equally important, since you'll probably get knocked the fuck out by enemies who know how to exploit your weaknesses. And yes, the enemy AI, depending on the difficulty level, can and will use skills to hit your weaknesses. They can even set up for big one-hit skills that can easily wipe your party, so start paying attention, son. While you exercise your genocidal tendencies during some nights, every day you'll always be able to pick and choose what you spend your time on. Part of the life simulating aspect of this game is your social stats, which are charm, courage, and academics. Leveling these up grants you access to options you normally wouldn't have otherwise. Thankfully, the game has a generous amount of events or encounters where you can increase your social stats, making it a trivial affair to increase social stats as you progress through the game. But a focused approach on increasing stats by way of doing certain tasks or going somewhere is needed if you aim to max your social stats, and evolve to your final form as Yuki, the Chad of Chads. I'm joking, by the way. You don't really evolve, you really just do get more options. Another part of the life simulating aspect of this game is forming bonds, also known as social links. These are essentially mini stories that you'll be encountering while living your daily life, and hindsight really is 2020, because I guess I've been spoiled for choice since Persona 5, mostly because some of the characters you can hang out with are just plain boring, since the social links available are mostly people outside of SEAS. This fact already turns me off from going out with these guys just because they're unrelated to the characters who I really want to know and hang out with. Contrasting this with Persona 5 and Persona 4, most of your social links are the people inside the main characters group. But I will say that despite some of the social links being boring, others though are incredibly sweet, poignant, and thought-provoking. But regardless of what I think of them, going out with these people slowly but surely increases their social link, which has a maximum level of 10. And trust me, you really want to increase and max out these social links to the best of your time management ability, because your social links aren't just there for you to flirt with pretty girls. And don't worry, you don't have to explain why Mitsuru is the best girl. Yeah, I know you heard me. Fight me in the comments. Speaking of social links, they also serve as a way to unlock very powerful personas, which pretty much helps your bottom line of murdering a whole conga line of shadows in one go. And since we're already here, think of your persona as your Pokemons. But unlike Pokemon, you're supposed to throw them away and fuse them to make something greater via the Velvet Room. And don't worry about Igor. A decade ago, I thought he was there to creep me the fuck out, but honestly, he's a good man. Just don't get caught up on his nose. The Velvet Room is basically there to facilitate the mixing and matching of your personas. This is the place where you can register your on-hand personas, so you can recall them once again if you need them to fuse new ones. There are also different ways to fuse and create personas, so you can mix and match and get the best possible personas to your heart's content. And while Persona 5 started this trend of incredibly active and stylish menus, in retrospect, Persona 3 during its PS2 and PSP release actually had a pretty cool menu for its time, embracing the color blue and starting the trend of character portraits hanging on the right side during fights. You could even see traces of the lively menus, although a bit primitive at the time. Persona 3 Reload still embraces the color blue, if it wasn't obvious enough. The UI, despite its asymmetric design, still guides your eyes to whatever it is you need to see. Although I've heard some people say that it looks too busy and that there's a lot happening in the menus, but to me it's pretty easy to follow, and although I do agree that it looks busy, I think it's just part of the style, using Persona 5 style as a jumping off point and building on top of it. I mean, just look at it. The protagonist literally follows you around the menus and is sometimes there to help you direct your eyes to information that you need to see at a glance. I think more games should embrace better looking menus, and the mere fact that the menus are a talking point in this video speaks volumes about how good it looks and how fun it is to see, which ultimately just adds to the overall experience of playing the game. And you can't talk about any Persona game without talking about the banger of a soundtrack. Some people would be quick to point out the absence of Yui Kawamura, who was the original singer for most of the Persona 3 soundtrack. In her stead, we get Azumi Takahashi, and she's great. It's Going Down Now has been living rent-free inside my goddamn mind for the past week or two. Same goes for Full Moon, Full Life, and Mass Destruction Reload. Though there are some people who'd like to disagree on whether or not Atlus should have kept the same singer for the new soundtrack, but we can all agree that, dear lord, this game needs more than 2 battle themes. For the love of God, whoever playtested Persona games must have liked the battle themes so much that they forgot to report that they've heard the same 2 songs an infinite amount of times. Don't get me wrong, they're all bangers, but with the amount of times you go in and out of fights, you kind of start to notice that you're hearing the same intro to the same song for the past 10 or however many fights you entered. But on the flip side, traveling through the world of Persona 3 makes you really want to have your own soundtrack in real life. Hell, me and my coworkers have done coronary angiographies with When the Moon's Reaching Out Stars Reload as our background music, amongst other songs from the Persona series. The sometimes upbeat and sometimes chill pace of the songs definitely matches the tone and the vibe the game is trying to set. Wherever you go and whatever emotion it is that the game wants you to feel, the game has got you covered. Hey guys, I've noticed that 90% of you guys aren't subscribed, and since you've already reached this part of the video, consider giving this video a like and subscribe to my channel. This helps me grow and figure out which of my content you guys enjoy the most. Anyway, back to the video. Persona, quite frankly, isn't a hard game to play. Everything is pretty straightforward, though there are times that the game can be quite sneaky, and given that you can't really save anytime at any point in the game, it's definitely helpful to know these things before diving in. There is a rewind function that you can use if you screwed something up, be it a dialogue option or being underleveled for a certain event. The rewind feature drops you a few days back from wherever you are, so you can correct whatever it is you want to correct. For the love of God, please save. Even if there is a rewind function, it only goes back so far. There are important decision-making parts in this game, so have multiple saves. There's a reason you have a near infinite amount of save slots. Use it. There are a lot of instances where you have to choose what to say to your social links. Some options are worse than others, and these are indicated by the musical note coming out of their heads when you choose. It can be 1 to 3 notes, and for the sake of clarity, these are called relationship points. Anyway, since this game takes a really long time to finish and going back to be more efficient when it comes to the dialogue is a pain in the ass, I highly suggest that you look up dialogue guides for whichever character or social link that you are with. The same goes for starting a relationship with some of the social links. There are a few instances where you can easily miss a romantic route, especially with Fuuka's dialogue options. Even while paying attention, I missed the correct sequence of dialogue choices choices. So if you want to avoid this, Google it, for the love of God. If the game gives you a prompt that says, "I don't think our bond will grow any stronger," don't worry. It only means that you don't have enough relationship points to level up your social link with a character. You can still hang out with them even with this prompt showing up. This results in additional relationship points being gained. You can check again the next day if you've gained enough relationship points to rank up. While traveling through Tartarus, if you've already discovered the stairs to the next floor and you still need to search through the entire floor, once you're done searching, you can just press start and choose to go to the next floor wherever you are, as long as the next floor is displayed on the map. And please note that depending on the layout of the area, sometimes you may want to get closer to the stairs for it to show up on the map. If Fuka runs out of SP, you have the option to give her SP potions. Maybe I'm stupid or something, but I didn't know this was a thing till like the latter half of the game. When people say that 0 HP is what kills you in this game, they're wrong. 0 SP is what kills you in your ability to fight in Persona, and running out of SP in this game is tantamount to hitting enemies with a wet fucking noodle. And more often than not, you have more healing options than ways to recover SP. So, for your sake and mine, plant soul spinaches. These are available after August 25th in the flower store in Port Island Station called Rafflesia. And if you want to increase the output of every harvest, you can ask your buddies in the dorm to help you tend to your plants. This, of course, requires that you plant the seeds first, then the option to do so will appear over the following days at night at your dorm. If you have no idea which social link to level up because of the sheer amount of choices, an easy way to see who's going to level up after spending time with them is by going to the map, press the More Info button, and you'll see the list of available social links and whether or not they'll level up. Inside Escapade, you'll find a guy called Suspicious Man. Real creative there, Atlas. Bravo. Anyway, this shady guy sells URLs that you can access via the computer in the dorm. One of the URLs gives you relationship points on certain female social links. But the thing that I'd like to highlight is the Assassin site note, History website note, and Ninja fan site note. These 3 URLs change how the ambush mechanic works and gives you buffs and debuffs enemies. Visit the Suspicious Man every now and then and check what he has to offer because the notes are not always readily available. And lastly, take your time and stop worrying about what you'll miss. Think of what you want to do for the day and adjust for anything that comes up along the way. Persona games thrive on enjoying the smaller moments between the big set pieces, to the point that a second playthrough is not just warranted, but encouraged. The game even clears your save but retains all your social stats at the end of your initial playthrough, giving way to a no limits new game plus mode where any restrictions you had experienced because of your social stats are now gone, assuming you max your stats out before the end of the game. But regardless if you haven't yet, you're already halfway there, giving you more time to spend with social links that you haven't touched on quite as much in your initial playthrough, or focus on other things. Aside from a few minor issues that I have with the game here and there, I am willing to let those things go, all in the name of letting everyone know that this game is one of those games that you shouldn't be missing out on and that it really is worthy of that overwhelmingly positive response. Every once in a while, you'll find a game that you'll finish and leave you with that sinking empty feeling that you can never get rid of for some reason. The moment the credits rolled by, only to reveal the main menu once again, was just as heartbreaking as a lot of things I've experienced throughout my journey in the game. But don't let its melancholic mood or even my own colorful commentary fool you into thinking that it's all just doom and gloom. You'll have your fair share of moments in the sun with characters whom you'll soon be spending a lot more time with than you think. So much so that you'll be so immersed you'll start missing these characters sooner or later. And just like that, another Persona game will leave its mark, leaving you and me with one of its overarching messages that life really is what we make of it. You can choose to think that it's all meaningless, or you can choose to find meaning in the things that you do or believe in. In the end, it's all about living your life however you want, and while all people come and go, you will eventually leave an indelible mark on them, no matter how big or small that mark may be. Time marches on. It doesn't wait for anyone. So before you or anyone's time is up, let those whom you hold dear know how much they mean to you. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture, you just have to let them know. So, venture your life and burn your dread. Thank you very much for watching, and consider joining my Patreon for more behind the scenes content. Until next time.